Hi there, I'm Dylan Tanner and this is the second episode of Movement of Mind and Meaning. Today I'm going to talk about taking that first step when you feel the grey kicking in or maybe it's already got a hold of you. I'm going to talk about what helps me when I'm in there and hopefully you can see simple, non-overwhelming steps to get moving and try to get yourself from under the grey. If you're listening to this, there's a good chance you'll know what I mean when I talk about having one of those days, when the grey hits you. You can wake up like it can hit you mid-morning or afternoon, or even in time out of nowhere and wreck your whole day. Laying in bed staring at the ceiling, staring out the window, feeling completely empty. Scrolling on social media, another day of this. Another day feeling worthless and empty and like it's pointless even doing anything or being here at all. This could be all day long. Getting worse and worse, then repeat day after day for days, weeks, months, or even years, which has happened to me a few times. And I'm always aware that it can happen any time and it can develop and snowball if I don't do something to get moving. For me, on those days when I feel it kick in, my thought processes are mostly, what's the point? I don't care about anything. I can't do anything. I'm no good at anything. I'm worthless. I'm nothing. No one cares about me. It can be a real pity party in there sometimes. It all feels pointless and like everyone would just be better off without me. And sometimes it gets really hard to come up with reasons to stay around. I've become much better at dealing with this when it hits now. I know I need to go for a drive or a walk or a short workout, and that'll help me get out of that funk and stop it developing. I've got a plan in place of micro wins that are small enough I can just get up and get moving instead of feeling overwhelmed like I used to when trying to do too much, which is one of the main mistakes I used to make before I learned these successful patterns for me, was trying to do too much at once. I'd make all these grand plans, start this epic morning routine or put together a super duper to-do list to end up doing absolutely nothing again because it was too overwhelming for where I was in my headspace. And what I really needed to do was I needed to chunk it down. I needed to make it something smaller I could manage with no pressure. The consistency of something small day after day working to build that micro win into your life will be the big day followed by a week of nothing every single time. And that's a flaw I used to fall for all the time myself. These days, because I've built a solid consistency of activity in my life over the last 4 years, when I feel a grey coming on I can go for a walk or a run or hit some weights and that works for me most of the time now. But I have to be honest and say it's not a 100% get out of jail card. I'm not trying to present that idea here. I just know that by trying there's a chance, and if I keep trying, eventually things do improve. But say I've been in a bad spot for a little while, maybe a few months, or 6 months, or even a year or two. I can tell you the very last thing I can imagine doing is going for a run or hitting the weights. I couldn't think of anything worse because I'm not used to it at that point, and it'll wipe me out and quite possibly put me off. But I know I can always go for a short walk and add no pressure whatsoever. If I want to walk for 5 minutes, I can. If I want to do more, I can. The most important thing is that I've done something no matter how small it is. I always remember the phrase, too small to skip, which means you put something in place that's literally too small to skip. It could be walking from your front door for 2 minutes, then walking back. It could be just one set of 5 squats or even just one push-up. If you commit to something small like that every day, at some point you're 100% going to want to do more, and that's when the magic starts to happen. As human beings, we always want to improve, and we're always happiest when we're improving at something. So the more you can perform a little daily micro win, the more you're going to want to improve over time. Then you've got motion. Then you've got momentum, which by the way is the absolute most important factor in trying to build a new habit, momentum. The main thing for me when it gets hold of me and I start spiraling into the grey is that I just know I can't keep going like this or my suicidal thoughts will start to drown everything else out. They'll start to win, and I've been through that cycle so many times now, I know exactly what it looks like. So these days it's like a trigger that I need to get going because I can't let that back in no matter what. And it's important for me to say this, I don't always win that battle. I'll have 1 to 3 days a week every week that I lose that battle actually. But now I've got more days in the week that I win, whereas I used to lose every day for weeks and months sometimes, but I'm very happy to be able to say that's very rare now, off the back of me having my micro win routine in place that works for me. And that didn't happen overnight. At first it feels like nothing changes. It can feel so unrewarding when you've managed to get out and do your walk or workout and get home, and feel like you haven't even left the house and you're mentally exhausted for nothing, with the same feelings you had earlier and it felt completely pointless even trying. But from my experiences with this, and so many people I've helped with this, if we keep going after that positive change of state, they do add up. Even if sometimes they don't, we must keep going. And for me, it's worth that change, even if it's just for the time I'm doing the thing. Because at least it's something different to what I'd be feeling all day long in bed anyway, doing nothing. You've got to trust that those changes of state will add up over time, and they really do. And through that, you start to see glimpses of yourself again. You start to want to do things again. You start to remember things you used to enjoy doing. Personally, I always try and pick one thing, whether it's weight training, walking or running steps, which I love. I try to pick one thing and keep doing it because when I do that, the more I do it, I know at some point I'll want to start proving at it and tracking how I'm going. So it becomes self-fulfilling then. Then I'm getting some really positive traction with it and become meaningful, and you want to keep going. I know I've said this already, but I feel it's so important it's worth saying again. Always important to remind yourself not to add pressure to it. I very rarely add pressure to myself when I'm trying to get back on my feet, or even when I'm in a good spot of consistency and improvement. I'll always allow myself to see how I go. Even if I plan a super duper workout, which sometimes I stupidly do, it's always a case of go and get going for 10 to 15 minutes and see how I feel. If I want to keep going, or go a bit harder, I will. If I'm not feeling it, or my brain is playing up, I'll pack it in and chill, no pressure. And that's something that works really well for me and other people I've worked with too. This is something I employed massively when training for the Marathon des Sables in 2022. I was coming back from a few years of no movement at all after my first mental breakdown. No training, eating junk, gaining weight. I ended up in hospital with kidney stones and nearly dying of sepsis, and I knew I needed to change something. So I picked a goal that would be so big I'd have no choice but change my current lifestyle if I had any chance of succeeding. I had to become the person who could complete the Marathon des Sables, which is no mean feat. But this is the thing. For every single workout I completed in that year-long preparation, I always allowed myself an out when I wanted or needed it, and that allowed me to perform and enjoy consistent workouts that could last 3, 4 or even 5 hours at a time. I know if I'd added pressure to myself like I've done in the past, I wouldn't have had anywhere near the quality or length of workouts I was getting in, and off the back of that I had an incredibly successful preparation. I lost 50 pounds and became the fittest version of myself I'd ever been at 40 years old. For me personally, when I'm in it, I feel like I'm probably the only person who can notice or feel anything from it. It's a very lonely place and it can feel like nothing is changing because you're stuck in there, and it might take a little while for your brain to catch up, but it will come if you just keep going. There is something better on the other side. I've had to do it quite a few times in my life and it does come eventually, I promise you. I'm not saying it's easy in the slightest. It's the hardest thing I've done in my life, but it does come and we've got to keep going always. So on that, let's take that first step. Don't think about it too much. Just get up and decide to go for a 5 to 10 minute walk from your front door and walk back. If you want to do more, you can. If you don't want to, no problem. If you want to drive to a place you know well where you can walk, do that. Let's just do something. Doesn't need to be a big grand plan or something that's going to give you massive gains. Just the getting up and doing something for a little bit, just for the sake of it, will help you feel a bit different. Even for a little bit, but it's something. Let me try again tomorrow and see if we can get some consistency, but no pressure. Me personally, I know pressure is something that can completely shut me off, so I'm always trying to stay away from it when I'm trying to restart, or trying to get myself away from a bad place mentally. Okay, that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. I'm Dylan Tanner, and this is Movement for Mind and Meaning, a place for people just like you who want to keep trying for something more.